For those who haven't heard your stuff before... No, hang on. Let me get my sentence in the right order.
Episode loading. Play. You are listening to Freshly Squeezed.
When I was listening back, I found myself dancing like my Uncle Steve. Like, we'd have family parties and he had the moves. I told him, yeah, you are being honoured as the god you are.
11.
Hello, here we go again. Another dose of the best new music in the world on Freshly Squeezed, the go-to podcast if you are into finding brand new sounds. I'm Jim. I've got 4 hand-picked examples of brilliant music to service you with over the next 30 minutes or so. That sounds weird? I'm going to play you some new tunes and also some chat from the artists who made those tunes. Get following this podcast in whatever app you are using to listen to it right now, and you'll get new episodes as soon as they drop on a Monday morning. And a heads up when we do special content, exclusive interviews, that kind of thing, which come along from time to time. So, to the matter in hand. On this show, we'll be learning why 2025 is the year of the dad dance with Sons of Guns and their latest offering.
Hair forever creeping up my blind side.
It is such a bop, that. We're also going to be going a little bit 80s electro with the latest tune from the brilliant Londoners, the Utopiates.
Sometimes you just gotta fly away. So we'll be leaving again today.
And a tune from the 355s that is not only a belting little 90s inspired indie banger, but also a tune for a really good cause too, that you can help support.
Sometimes I don't wanna talk at all. It's harder than I ever thought it was, but I'm getting.
And that lot, the 355s, have got a really cool connection with Oasis in that song, and there's a nice little Noel Gallagher story coming up as well, which is well worth hanging on for. All that to come. But before we get started, I just need to check my voice notes. I keep little notes in my phone to remind me of stuff that I need to remember to do.
Memo 1. Play.
Don't forget to get the weekly Big Shop, cornflakes, beer, salad leaves, beer, fabric conditioner, beer, bleach, beer.
Okay, brilliant. I need to listen to all of that right now.
Memo 2. Play.
Include the interview with the band The Memos on the next episode of Freshly Squeezed.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. Great shout. Need to get that one on.
Memo 3. Play.
It's only bloody Zach and Aaron from The Memos on Freshly Squeezed. Welcome, boys.
Hello, thanks for having us. Pleasure to be here today. What's up?
Thank you very much for coming on. So I'm going to start by apologising
for something that my brain does, which I need to get off my chest instantly, because when I listen to music, I instantly make connections with other bands that I hear in there. And I have to say, with the brand new single Born Again that we're featuring on Freshly Squeezed, first band that popped into my head is Shed 7. Is that a band that you've ever kind of looked at in terms of influence in any way? Because it's not one that I see popping up on your kind of influence list, which contains the likes of Catfish and Arctic Monkeys, etc.
To be honest, no. Yeah, Shed 7 aren't not really a band I listen to often, but maybe, drawing on my influences or earlier influences, some stuff goes back to the 60s, maybe it's influenced Shed 7 along the way. I've had that a few times where bands have said you sound like another band, and not quite seen a direct connection, but there's maybe been an indirect one. But yeah, it's a new one for us, I think.
That's definitely a first. I've never heard that one. I'm not very familiar with Shed 7. Personally, I've always, like you mentioned 60s. I've always liked that, especially like the late 60s with that psychedelic period of music. I've always thought that was quite interesting and quite intriguing. But yeah, Shed 7 is definitely a new one for us.
It's all bloodlines and kind of a web of connection, isn't it? Like you say, you might not have those influences directly, but it can kind of come through different areas. And I think it's that kind of slightly 90s indie vibe that you've got going on that leads me to kind of lean in that direction. But the new tune, you've called it an anthem of defiance. What do you mean by that?
I think when I wrote the song, I started life at Airbnb down in Brighton. I was away with my girlfriend, and I just started writing just what I was feeling at the time. Didn't think too much about it. And when I was looking back at the words, I feel like there was a feeling of like just being resilient and persevering through some hardship, which I think inspired that song. And just kind of that feeling of wanting to almost prove people wrong, show you're stronger than you are, show you're better than you are. And yeah, I took that to Zach, and it was the first song we've been collaborative on. I think in the studio when we did it, I just felt yeah, this is what the Memos are about. This is what we're about. So very much feels like this is us planting our flag, and probably we feel born again as a band as well.
How does that feel to you, Zach, kind of having more involvement in that writing process and being more collaborative? Do you find that kind of gives you a stronger connection with the song? Do you find yourself kind of leaning more towards the ones that you've contributed to?
Definitely, 100%. I think it's one of those, when you're involved with like the writing, it feels like, you take ownership in it. Especially when you write, there's a lot of nakedness in a way. So when I'm telling stories and saying like things I feel, there is like a lot of vulnerability there. But in that vulnerability, I think there's a lot of like, you can really dig deep with that you can find a message that I think can connect with people universally.
I know you spent some time also collaborating or working with, in a writing capacity, Carl Faulkner from The View recently, Aaron. Was that part of his writing camps that he does up in his beautiful Spanish retreat, or was that on a different project?
Yeah, that was it. So it was back in April. I went out there. And again, at the time when I booked it, I hadn't collaborated writing-wise with anybody. So it felt like a huge move at the time. And it was one of the best moves I did. Totally amazing experience. And I think it's made me a better writer.
I've heard from a couple of other people I've spoken to who have kind of done similar things with Carl, that he can be a little bit blunt with his feedback at times. How did you find that experience? And how did you find that he was responding to your work?
You know what? It was quite complimentary of my lyrics, which was massive. I think it's one thing that, like, your friends saying it's good, but for someone who's been there and done it, for them to be quite complimentary, it means a lot. And the song that I wrote with Kyle, we put it together in like 8 minutes, and then we just chatted for the rest of the time that we had together. So it was a really good session and experience. He is blunt and to the point, but it's just because of how fast he works. I think he's a genius. Yeah, seeing firsthand the way he does it, he really is special, I would say. Obviously, there's a difference in accents. You can clearly hear between yourself, Aaron, and Zach. And
wait, really? We have different accents?
Yeah, I mean, I've got a good ear for this stuff. I'll tell you what, I've spotted it. But you've got, obviously, Zach, you're transatlantic,
yes.
San Francisco born.
Yes.
You've got Aaron, Gary, Jake, who are all northern lads. How have you found that transition from the music your side of the pond to kind of fitting into this, and I hate to pigeonhole, but that kind of like northern indie vibe that I think is very unique to the UK?
That's a really good question, actually. Growing up in San Francisco, I played a lot of music. I started gigging from a young age, but also what I think helped attach me, I guess, to Britain. So my mom's actually English. So I've actually been visiting the UK forever, really. Right. So I used to visit every single summer. And I think my mom's like kind of music taste and going to see music at a very young age in the UK made me think, wow, there's something always wrong about the music here. I kind of love the unpolishedness of it. And I think that's why people love it too, because that rawness, I think, taps into that emotion quite deeply. And I think that's something that's really attracted me, I guess, to coming to the North, is people look after each other, but people like to come together. And I think there's something powerful, especially in the Northwest, of music, having lived here a long time, where it brings people together in a phenomenal way.
Boys, lovely to speak to you. Looking forward to the EP coming out in November. Physical release as well. That's going to feel really special when you get that vinyl in your hands. That's going to feel incredible. So really looking forward to that happening for you. Before you go, you're called the Memos, and I want you to think back to the very first days of the band, the early rehearsals when you first got together, be it in a garage or a rehearsal room or wherever. If you could record yourselves a little voice memo now that you could then play back to yourselves on that very first day, what would you say? What message would you have to yourselves? You can have one each if you like, so you don't have to do a collaborative one. Go on, Aaron, you go first.
I would say enjoy every moment, be grateful for the struggle. It's all going to lead to better days, I think, and some of the best life experiences you're going to have, I would say.
Nice. Zach, what have you got?
I see what you did there with the voice memo, by
Thanks.
the way. Good question. It's one of those, because it's like you go on a journey and if you told these things, that the journey might not happen that way and you wouldn't have grown. So it's kind of a paradox I've always think. But I think I would tell myself, you got this. Keep believing. Things are going to happen. Things might look not amazing now, but you're in for some wonderful things. Just keep your head down, work hard, don't get cocky, and just have fun along the way. Take it one day at a time. Remember, experience the things one day at a time and embrace it.
Nice one, boys. Pleasure to chat. We're going to play Born Again on Freshly Squeezed, but cheers for coming on.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you so much, man.
Gonna make it my way. I don't care what they say. I'm gonna make some mistakes, but I'm not afraid of failing. And I don't believe a word you say. You done a 180 on the things you promised yesterday. And I feel born again. I may have lost a friend. Was it all pretend? I'm gonna stay true to myself to the end. You have sold your soul, and in time you'll know how it feels inside. Gotta live with that the rest of your life.
Stop. Continue.
You got the habit of looking at the bright side. I've got the foresight to see it from the other side. Looks at the weather, told me there's a storm on the rise. But I didn't want to rock the boat, so I kept it inside. It's getting better, don't be so bitter. It's getting better every day and all of the time. Listen, honey, ain't got no money, ain't being funny, but feels like you're wasting your time on me. Precious time I see. You're selling and I ain't buying.
That is Sons of Guns. There is more to come of that tune in a bit, but first, David from the band talking to me on Freshly Squeezed.
How you doing, Jim?
For those who have heard Sons of Guns before, that tune might sound a little bit different to what you're used to. It's a move away from the normal 70s Americana low-slung feel, which isn't a sound that necessarily fits with the region that you lot are in and making music, which is the south of France. So where does that Americana thing come from?
Well, from our upbringing, really. Grew up with a lot of that Fleetwood Mac, the Eagles, Crosby, Stills and Nash, things like this. So, and we spent a lot of time in the States, in particular Colorado, and that kind of music just seems to be floating around in the air. So it just struck a chord young and stayed. There's only one French dude in the band. The rest of us are English. Unfortunately, they're all Southerners.
What does he bring to the process? Because my idea of kind of French music, particularly when you're looking in the indie world, is bands like Phoenix, who have that kind of indie dance crossover thing going on.
Yeah, I think they're from around where we live as well, Phoenix. What Emmerich brings is, well, in French music, I mean, there's a lot of style, a lot of class. He brings that, but also is a musical genius to go with it. He's got something like 100,000 songs in his iTunes, if anyone uses that anymore. It brings a lot to us.
I say normally your music's this 70s Americana folky thing going on, but that's definitely the case for the first two tracks off your debut EP.
Yeah.
With the new tune, it's getting better. It feels like it could have been the theme tune to like a American 70s sitcom or something like that. Maybe something written by George Harrison. What made you change it up a little bit for this tune?
I like that, man. I like it. In fact, it started out, it was sort of like, it reminded me of Only Fools and Horses. And I really love that sort of swagger and swing that song has. And just as it went along, I kind of, just by accident, found a guitar sound that reminded me a bit T-Rex. And I just went down that avenue with it. And I started listening to a lot of glam rock as well, just so I could draw on it properly. So yeah, it took a bit of a turn, but I enjoyed where it went.
It feels like it just would have been a lot of fun to record. Was this one of those songs that came together in the studio when you're all just kind of like chipping in and working together? Was it something that was written separately and then brought into that space? It just feels like there's a bit of a vibe about it.
Oh man, we had loads of fun. Especially you mentioned George Harrison, because Jack Daniel, the guitarist, real name,
Incredible.
was playing some slide and he took it down the George Harrison route, which I was really happy about.
I really love the new video for the new tune. It's getting better as well now. It's based on a dad dance championships, and there's some proper moves being pulled in. I'm very familiar with the rigid shoulder, hip shuffle, elbows in, thumbs up kind of move. That's one of mine. I'm all over that.
Yeah, that's my actual move.
The moves that are actually in the video themselves, are they inspired by certain people? Have you picked them up at kind of family get-togethers, or when you're playing gigs and you see someone at the corner of the dance floor pulling some shapes? Are you kind of mentally banking that and bringing that into the video?
Been banking it my whole life, man. Yeah, we were. Well, the idea for it came about because I was recording the vocal for it in the studio, and when I was listening back, I found myself dancing like my Uncle Steve. Like, we'd have family parties, and he had the moves, the shoulders, the thumbs, the hips, and I just thought that'd be a great video. So we had a bash at it. It's so much fun.
Is Uncle Steve aware that he has been honoured in such a way?
Yeah, I told him. Yeah, I've sent him the message. Yeah, you are being honoured as the god you are.
Speaking of dad dancing, I know you play a lot of gigs around where you are, and one of them in recent history had a very special guest in the form of Rick Astley, who joined you on stage. How did that come about? What was the story there?
It was awesome. We were invited to play a private party in Switzerland, and they asked us, because Rick, Mr. Astley, I should call him, he was one of the guests, and they said, would you learn 2 of his songs? He's going to come up and play. So we were like, hells yeah. And he did, and it was brilliant. But he loved playing so much, he just stayed on with us. He played drums. He's a great drummer, obviously a great singer. He's got the moves as well, so I banked some of them. He stayed on stage with us for a couple of hours, and he was really a funny, nice guy.
What was the kind of highlight of the set? Where did you kind of look around and go, this is Rick in his natural habitat?
Well, obviously, when he did the hit, Never Gonna Give You Up, that was like, what the flip's happening in my life right now.
Amazing. What a moment. So the EP's coming very soon. Any thoughts on a debut album yet? Have you got, Emmerich's got 100,000 tunes on his Spotify. Have you got enough tunes as a band to kind of start thinking about debut albums?
Absolutely. We got another 2 singles coming after this EP, and then we've got the album in October, hopefully. We've been recording. We've only just started, really. We only released our first single this year, but we've been recording for the last couple of years, and we're sitting on about maybe 30, 40 songs recorded. So now it's just a case of putting the coherent ones together, really.
Excited to hear it when it comes. Would It's Getting Better be a kind of blueprint for the album, or will it be the kind of softer, more ambient stuff that is central to your sound when it comes? Or can you not give that much away yet?
I can give anything away. I got no secrets, Jim. To be honest, I'll be writing in between now and October. And if it was up to me, I'd love to go down that avenue and explore that more. But like I said, we were also sitting on 30-odd songs that I really want to get off my chest. So, but some of those even go towards hip-hop and breakbeats, and some are out-and-out folk. So it's quite hard to navigate an identity when you're sitting on so many different ones.
Been an absolute pleasure to chat to you, David. I am brand new to Sons of Guns, obviously, because you've not been around that long, but this tune, It's Getting Better, is the first thing I've heard, and I really enjoyed going back and listening to the other tunes as well, and delighted to hear that a debut album is on the way. But cheers for coming on Freshly Squeezed.
Thanks so much for having me, Jim. It's been a pleasure.
It's getting better, don't be so bitter. It's getting better every day and all of the time. Listen, honey, ain't got no money, ain't being funny, but everything can turn on a dime. I see that you're lying to me. You're selling and I ain't buying.
Love it. You need to see the video for that song as well. It is ace. Sons of Guns. Link in the podcast description for everything you need about them. So, the Utopiates next, and Dan is joining me, who I'm hoping who can say the name of their new tune in a far better way than I can, because I'm just going to butcher this when I try and say it out loud. Montezuma, is that right?
Montezuma, yeah. That's what I'm going with anyway.
Montezuma. I reckon Correct me if I'm wrong here, but I reckon this must be the first ever tune named after an Aztec emperor.
Is that what it's actually in reference to? See, I'm coming at it from the place in Costa Rica
Okay.
that I visited very luckily a few years back with my missus. The tune is actually about a few days we spent there and how unbelievable it was. And yeah, I didn't know that reference, but I like it.
I guess the place in Costa Rica was probably named after the emperor at some point. So is that kind of a typical muse for you? Like a trip away that you've done, for example, that can spark into a song and then people happy want to interpret that, I guess is up to them.
Yeah, I do like to do that actually, to pick a specific sort of weekend or time. I like to write about all different topics and subjects, and I like to think we get a bit deep sometimes, but sometimes it's just about some amazing night out you had or a weekend away, or in this case just an epic trip. I find tunes like that they come a lot easier, I think, and I guess it's quite shallow of me that I'm forever using my life experiences to write a song, and maybe I should be a bit more in the moment when I'm there, but I'm always thinking, oh, this will make a great tune, which my long-suffering missus laughs at. But yeah, it's just an unreal trip, a beautiful part of the world, and that specific spot we were in, Montezuma, honestly, I'm not sure I'll ever top it, and that's kind of what the song's trying to say as well. It's kind of got that melancholy thing about it.
Top recommendation for a new tune and a bit of a holiday recommendation as well. But in terms of how the song feels, I think listening to this, it's a little bit different to your normal stuff I heard previously. It's a bit more electronic 80s, maybe a little bit New Order in there with the big bass line and the keys. What made you change it up for this? Was it a desire to try something different, or was it just that inspiration of the place and the kind of creativity of the song lent itself to this vibe?
To be fair, I feel like we've always had a bit of that running through our music, maybe more on the first album. The more recent songs, we've gone a bit more stripped back and maybe aiming for a bit more kind of, I don't know, LCD sound system in the production. James Murphy's someone we mention a lot in the studio these days. But for this one, I think we went back to what we kind of used to do. The chorus is we've kind of chuck the kitchen sink at it a bit, but it's never a conscious decision. It's never like I sit down and go, oh, I'm going to write it like this. You just sit down and see what fits and see what works, and basically that bass riff that keeps the song going throughout, that was an idea that actually now our former bassist Luke, he just kept playing that ding 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 like down at practice. I kept saying to him, that's a nice little hook, and I'm going to make something out of it. And it only took me about 3 years to actually sit down and do it, because that's how things pan out sometimes. But that bass hook, I just added a turnaround on that, and then we wanted it to be almost have a kind of hip hop feel, that the drum beat and the tambourine, and then we just whacked a massive chorus on it, and that was enough really for the verse. So if it's come out sounding like that, then that's great. Yeah. Our producer Andy used to say to us that like none of our tunes sound the same at all, which is brilliant in a way, but sometimes I'm not sure all our fans can identify with every track, but I'd rather mix it up personally. But we've definitely these latest batch of songs, we're definitely aiming towards a more stripped back approach. We've always been quite dancey and groovy, and definitely that's in a more baggy way, but I think we've been just a bit more sort of angular and industrial, and that kind of sound's been our thing on the last few tracks, and I think it will be on this album.
Well, I was going to say, will the second album, which is coming out tail end of this year, is that going to be more a singular focus, a singular sound, or is it still going to have that kind of eclectic feel to it?
I think we're focusing in on that stripped back thing. I think we've purposely done that on this album. We don't want to make a second album that just sounds like the first, really. I don't know if some fans might not love that because they like our baggy stuff, they like the big solos and whatever, but yeah, if you listen to this second album, it's definitely stripped back, and it's definitely got more of the electronic sound going on. And we did mention that we were looking towards New York rather than Manchester this time, but we're still always going to have that, it's the way I write songs, I'm still always going to have melodies in the tunes, and there'll be times where we're touching on the Manchester thing as well, because obviously those are the bands that we love too. I think you'll notice a difference on the second album, definitely.
I really encourage people to kind of go back and listen to the back catalogue as well, because you do have that eclectic sound. If you're going to point people in one direction beyond the song we're featuring on Freshly Squeezed, where would you point them?
Good question. As like a starting point for what we want to do and what we want to be moving forwards, I think tracks like Neighborhood, which was like the first song off this, new batch of songs, the second album basically. I think that showcases that we've still got that driving beat going on, but we're trying to be a bit more raw. It's less about the solos. I don't know if you'd sort of go back and say what sums us up, the success we had off the first album. You can't really get away from Only Human. Not that we ever want to. We still play it live and people love it. Interestingly, that was the first song that we actually released. I feel like we nailed it straight out of the gate with Only Human, and it's still the one that people look to and say that's the Utopiates sound. I think Only Human's a good starting point, I'd say.
Bit of homework there. Go and get stuck in. Go and have a listen. Dan, good to catch up. Really looking forward to hearing the new album when it comes, and let's get it on. Montezuma on Freshly Squeezed.
Cheers, mate. Nice one.
Sometimes you just gotta fly away. So we'll be leaving again today. I'll be dining out all my privileges. I'm just a man that's along for the game. So pleased to meet you. What do you do? I fake all these friendships for cash. It's dragging me down and it's stealing my pride. And I could live here if I just had the time. Think about coming home and I feel colder. I think about leaving and it's over. Dream of the horizon. Close your eyes and see. We live and die in Montezuma.
Couple of Northern live dates on the way from the Utopiates. Well, I guess it depends when you're listening to this, but if you're listening to it in the months after it was released and you fancy seeing him live and you're up north, then there are a couple of shows not to be missed. 25th of October, Off the Square in Manchester. 21st of November, Leeds at Hyde Park Book Club, which isn't in Hyde Park, it's in Leeds. Get them on the socials if you fancy that. Link in the podcast description. So, final band on this week's Freshly Squeezed is the 355s, a band who have managed to do a really rare thing in music, make a good charity single. This is No We Are the World. It's called Sometimes, and Adam from the 355s is on the pod. You okay, mate?
Yeah, I'm good, man. Thank you. Yeah, very good.
Let's start off with the serious stuff. So this tune is being released with 856 Foundation. Who are they, and how did you guys end up getting involved with them?
Yes, the 856 are a men's mental health charity that are based in Kings Lynn in Norfolk. So 3 of the band members originate from there. And when we'd written Sometimes and recorded it, we just knew afterwards that it needed to be more than just a release on its own. It had such a great message. Bert's lyrics really reflected like a personal experience and emotion. And we just knew that we wanted to do something more. So we'd had some contact with the 856 through some colleagues at work who do some work for them. And mainly they do stuff around men's mental health and sport. And I just reached out to them, had some conversations with Richard there. He's a lover of music. And we said, we need to do this. And we just worked on that collaboration together. And it's been fantastic. It's been fantastic.
I was going to say, what came first? Was it an approach from the charity? You said, we want to do this, or was the song there and you just felt you wanted to do something with it? You've kind of answered that question, which I guess kind of suggests that men's mental health was something that was important to you from the very outset.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, anyone who's had the chance to listen to Sometimes, the lyrics particularly, are really emotive. It's that thing, it's better late than ever. It's time to talk. Music has the power to connect and heal. And the song wasn't written necessarily with that in mind. Lyrically, normally what happens is that Bert will write lyrics. He's our main lyricist within the band, and he'll often send them to me, and then I'll sit down and write the tunes. And this was one, and it sounds a bit of a cliche, but it just fell out of the sky. It was like, 10 minutes, it was just there. It was all there. And after we'd recorded it, we knew we just needed to do more with it. And so that's when we sort of reached out to the 856, because they're doing such good work with mental health and mental health in general, A
lot of artists that I speak to, I think their art, their kind of creation, a lot of the bands say that the actual kind of making of music and occasionally expressing emotions that they find difficult to express in other ways is very much part of their mental health toolkit, if you like. Is that the case for you in the band?
Yeah, definitely. On a personal level, I definitely find that, as I mentioned earlier, music, it's just got that power to connect and heal, isn't it? You can just sit there and listen and get involved in a song, and whether you're happy, you're sad, you're going through various different things. It just has that ability to help in a healing process. I certainly use it as that. I find writing music very healing. I find it, just playing music, it's just like, it's fun. It's fun. So all those emotions, music can bring all of those emotions.
This song and the rest of the EP from which it comes, from that matter, you've been working with Oasis and Rose's producer Nick Bryan on it. You've got that very much 90s indie sound to your tunes in general, and I know you worked with them on your debut EP as well. Did it just feel like that was a ready-made match, that when you heard that you had the potential to work with it, it was like, yeah, this makes sense?
Yeah, I mean, 100%. So we I have to say, we sort of fell into the situation with Nick, and we were over the moon, because back in going back a little bit. So it was in March of 2023. Three of the band, as it is now, the 355s, ended up at Rockfield together for an Oasis event, and
Right.
Nick was there as part of that event alongside Tony McCarroll, the original drummer, and we actually were there, and we ended up playing Live Forever with him.
Wow.
And so I mean, it was incredible. I mean,
Not even Oasis get to do that anymore.
Exactly. So we walked away from there, and we just thought, you know what, this is it. We've reached a level, it's like all our childhood dreams, just, in that moment, being there with Nick, being in Rockfield, playing with Tony McCarroll, etc. And Craig, who had originally reached out to myself to see if I was interested in being part of what that was in that event, then said, look, Nick would be like interested, or we'd definitely be able to get and do a song with him. And so we started working with him. We initially went to his own studio, then we went back to Rockfield. So the first EP was a combination of those two locations, working with Nick, and we've just kept that relationship going. We work alongside Nick on his label Flip Flop, and it's just worked. And so, he's magic. He's got that vibe, he's got that feel that just feels like home for us. Those songs, we grew up with those songs in the 90s, and everything about them is what we love. And that's definitely our sound, it's definitely our sound. So he just brings the best out of us as well.
That's not the only Oasis connection you've got. You have been previously reviewed by Noel Gallagher, who said, I bet they are great live, when he heard your music for the very first time. Clearly, you guys are a band that hold Oasis in high regard. You can hear it in your music, you can hear it in your interviews, in the choice of who you work with to an element as well. It must be amazing to hear something like that from the chief himself, when he's going, these guys have got it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that was just magic. I mean, we were apprehensive at the start, because, you're putting yourself out there, aren't you? And, Noel is very much, if he likes you, he likes you. If he doesn't, he'll tell you. It was great. The response we got from Noel was just fantastic. He was doing it on the Matt Morgan podcast, and it was reviewing a number of tracks. And we were fortunate enough to get 2 songs reviewed by him. And on both, he was not scathing. He had a little laugh and a joke, as he does with all of his interviews. But, to walk away from that and know that actually he really enjoyed it, it was a quality moment.
Have you managed to get him down to a gig yet to see if his theory holds up?
Sadly not. I mean, I think there's been a few sort of like little moments where we're like, maybe. We actually did not long after that, a few of the acts that were involved in that podcast and had their tracks reviewed did a gig at the Amersham Arms. And I think we were all maybe like hopeful, because Matt knew that was happening, and it was like, I wonder if the chief will turn up. I wonder if he will. I mean, at the moment, he's extremely busy, so there's no chance of that, sadly. But there's always that hope. You never know, hey?
One day.
Yes.
Well, sometimes there's a cracking tune, and
Thank
really
you.
approve of the cause as well. So people can download, buy, do all the things that they usually do with singles to help support and raise awareness of what 856 are doing, and also the mental health cause. But Adam, really good to chat to you on Freshly Squeezed.
Cheers, man. I really appreciate it. And thanks for having us on. We really, really appreciate it.
If I could sit and daydream, picture a world of happiness, change the way I'd live, get all the bitterness. If I could let my mind run free, think of all possibilities, dare to dream, and maybe accept accountabilities. Sometimes I don't wanna talk at all. It's harder than I ever thought it was, but I'm getting better at it. Better late than never. Sometimes I just wish that I could smile. It might take me a little while, but I'm getting better at it. Better late than never.
Find the links to that tune and the work of the 856 Foundation in the podcast description, along with links to all the bands featured on this here episode of Freshly Squeezed. If you've not done so already, do the subscription thing in your podcast app. If you're into Freshly Squeezed, you might as well follow us and you'll get an update as soon as the next show is ready. Also, leave a review, say some nice things, particularly if you like the show. If you don't like the show, say some nasty things. I'm not that keen on you either. That thing you're doing with your hair? Really? Think you can pull that off? But anyway, leave the 5-star review, whatever it is you've got to say. There'll be another show on the way shortly and another dose of brilliant new music in the coming days, and I'll see you then. Cheers to your ears.
Freshly Squeezed, a new music podcast, was devised, produced and hosted by Jim Salveson. Sound design and additional production by Ant McGinley. The music, Blue Blazer, is written and produced by Spin Class. Stop.